Breaking tonight, a ballistic missile fired by North Korea. The first test firing since President Trump took office. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. The U.S. military said late this evening that it detected the missile launch from North Korea and is assessing the situation. President Trump just made an appearance with Japan's prime minister in Florida at the president's Mar-a-Lago golf club, but they did not address the launch. South Korea officials say they believe the test missile, apparently fired into the sea, was a show of force in response to the Trump administration's hardline position against the North. The White House says the president is monitoring the situation and will keep you posted. About what's going on with North Korea. What do you think's going on here, Congressman?
Oh, they're just flexing their muscles. It's not surprising. We saw Iran do it as well. I think America can be very happy today. President Trump will keep our country safe, whether it's General Flynn or General Kellogg or our new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. He's got the A-team, General Mattis, that's going to keep us safe. This is nothing more than a little posturing. As some have suggested, North Korea feels left out. No one's been talking about them. We've been talking about China, and we've been talking about Iran, and now Japan, Mexico. So, this is not unexpected. It was not an intercontinental ballistic missile. It was an intermediate range.
Right.
So not a threat, but I do know that President Trump and his team, they're going to keep an eye on Iran. They're going to keep an eye on North Korea. They're not going to let either of those countries threaten stability in the world.
Well, Kim Jong-un isn't the most stable individual either. Well,
that's certainly well said. I wouldn't want to be a family member, that's for sure. And I think that, again, he's because he's propped up by China. And this is the interesting dynamic, Judge. It's China that's propped up. China depends on the U.S. consumer for their economy. There's a lot of issues on the trade side that are going to have to enter the mix. And when you think of the art of the deal, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that as President Trump and his trade negotiators get into discussing trade.
Let's talk about the, very quickly moving forward, the executive order and the Ninth Circuit. I mean, the most liberal leftist laughed at circuit in the country. What do you think that the president is going to do? Do you think he'll just draw up a new one and call it a day?
Well, I would certainly think that's a very good idea. I mean, it was a liberal judge, and then a liberal court decided that they didn't see any urgency to stay, to reverse the stay. So a very smart thing is to take what the judge said, which was not accurate, things like it was a Muslim ban, things like it was a religious litmus test and the like. They can be easily addressed in a new executive order, speaking very clearly. It doesn't affect green card holders, visa holders, students in, and so forth.
Right. And that was one of the problems, that it wasn't clear. And it was interesting how they said, we're not going to take at his word Don McCann, White House counsel, when he says it doesn't affect, these people.
The judge did give us the roadmap to doing something that they're not going to be able to claim any constitutional basis for. They may sue again, but there won't be a constitutional basis for a judge to uphold it. So I think it would be very expedious to go ahead and do a new order. To me, it would be expeditious. You can go to the Supreme Court, you can fight it out, have a, en banc, the whole thing. But, what I find incredible is I don't think the state of Washington had standing. They did not have a direct and immediate effect on the state of Washington. How could someone from another country who's not even a citizen, who isn't entitled to due process because they're not even over here, have standing against a president as it relates to national security? Well, it goes back to the stretch that they had a student who was denied entry. So I would grant you a student with a visa, and it was clarified they would be allowed in, but that was the stretch, that there was a student with a visa that wasn't allowed back into the country. And, that was the nexus that they had to try to claim standing.
Well, boy, that really tips the scales, doesn't it, Congressman?
That sure does. It sure does.
All right. From New York, Congressman Chris Collins, thanks so much for being with us.
Always good to be with you, Judge.
All right. And the travel ban drama dominating the news this week. So what's the president's next move after the Court of Appeals ruling? Deputy Assistant to the President, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is standing by live to talk to me about that and so much more. Next. Then, put your hands down. Somebody looking for you. Street Justice at America's most famous store. I get shoppers' takes on the left's assault on Ivanka Trump's clothing line. Justice rolls on in a moment. Do you think that any woman should be punished if she has her own business because her father's the president?
Probably not, but...
How about definitely not? A busy week in the White House. President Trump considering a new security move in the wake of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling against his immigration policy. And now late word of a missile launch by North Korea. Joining me now to talk about that and more is Deputy Assistant to the President, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sarah, good evening, and thanks for being with us this evening. Okay, now we hear about North Korea and this missile launch. What can you tell us about it?
Right now, all I can say is that the president's very aware of the situation. He's been briefed, and we're monitoring it closely. And as he gets more information, we'll make a decision at that time.
Okay, and this is something that has been confirmed by DOD. We have confirmed that this has happened.
I believe so, yes. And again, the president is continuing to stay in very close contact with his leadership team and monitoring it very closely throughout the evening.
All right. Let me ask you what I asked Congressman Collins from New York. The executive order looking forward, I don't want to go into what happened and everything that happened last week. By the way, Sarah, none of it is a surprise to me. I mean, the Ninth Circus, as it's called, I mean, more than what, 85–90% of its decisions overturned by the Supreme Court anyway. Is there a good chance that the president will draft a new executive order that is a little more palatable to the Ninth Circuit?
Look, right now the president's keeping all options on the table. The one thing I can assure you of and the one thing I can promise you of is that he's going to do whatever it takes within the Constitution to keep Americans safe. It's what he campaigned on, it's what he's promised, and it's what he's been doing and what he's taken action to do in his first days in office, and he's going to do whatever that takes.
Well, I believe he was doing that already and acting within the Constitution and, Article 1, Section 8. But apparently Ninth Circuit didn't agree. But I think right now the issue today had to do with ICE and the claim that there are random sweeps going on and that there are now ICE checkpoints in Los Angeles and that people are being deported. And I find it fascinating that there are now legal setups and legal attorneys and points for illegals so they have their rights explained to them and so that there are people who can now fight deportation who are here illegally when many people have felony convictions, as I understand, who have been deported. Talk to me about those numbers if you can.
Sure. Look, the bottom line here is that the ICE team and the ICE officers are simply enforcing the law and law that has existed before Donald Trump even took office. They're just actually enforcing it. This is real simple here. People that have come in illegally, that have felony charges, are not going to be allowed to stay. This is a law that has needed to be enforced and something that, frankly, we have to do in order to protect our country. And they're stepping up and following the law. And I don't know why anyone would complain about our law enforcement doing their job and enforcing the law.
Well, you know why they're complaining? They're not used to it. Since when is ICE given the power or the ability to do this? But to be fair, this is something that was done apparently occasionally by the prior administration. But, for those who are arguing that, there's no due process, there's no hearings, my understanding is the deportation is not of just those who have felony convictions and are here illegally, but those for whom there are already adjudication orders, so that there already has been the due process adjudication in court that you are illegal, you have to be deported, and then they just never showed up to be deported. Are you comfortable that even without the wall, that the people that we're deporting now can be kept out, or do you think we'll only have to go through this again?
you know, I don't want to get ahead of where we are right now. I think the bottom line is that the main priority that we have to do is we have to know who's in our country, why they're here, are they here for the right reasons, and if they are, then let's put them through the process and let's do this in a legal form and fashion. Let's not have open borders. If we have open borders, we can't have a country. That's been one of the big priorities of the president. He's going to enforce the law. He's going to build a wall. And frankly, he's going to secure our country. That is the #1 job of the president. And it's one that finally we have a president that takes that seriously and is going to take every measure under the Constitution to do just that.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. And street justice from Macy's Herald Square is still ahead tonight. Plus, Ben Stein is here live. And next, panel power. President Trump's next move on security. And will the travel ban go all the way to the Supreme Court? GOPAC Chair David Avella and Democracy for America's Neil Sroka are ready to go at it. Next, as Justice rolls on in a moment. Welcome back to Justice. The panel is here with me now to talk about a big week in the White House. David Avella, Chair of GOPAC, Neil Sroka, Communications Director, Democracy for America. Thank you both for being here.
Good
and indeed, gentlemen, it was a big week. I'm going to start with you, Neil. Was that ban a religious ban?
Yeah, it was. I mean,
I thought we could agree on something.
Listen, there's some real questions about whether or not he violated the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. And the record shows that he wanted to have a Muslim ban back in December 2015. Rudy Giuliani bragged about
Neil,
how this was a legal attempt. No, I'm not a lawyer.
Hold on.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
Let me give you a little bit of a primer here. A contract is only decided based upon what's in the four corners of that document. So the executive order stands on its own. It has nothing to do with what was said before. But let me ask you this. If it was a religious ban, then how come it only applies to 12% of the Muslims in the world, as opposed to 100% of them? Why is it only these Muslims as opposed to the other ones?
It doesn't matter if it's all Muslims or just 12% of the world Muslims. The question is whether or not it's a religious test or not.
From that country, you're banned. If you
No, you're not.
Yes,
no, you're not. You're getting special privileges to get into this country if you are a refugee. That is what they're trying to do with this.
Neil, listen to me. You got to know your facts before you come on my show. Okay?
These are the facts, Judge.
No. Do you see how ridiculous it sounds? These are the facts, Judge. You can't tell me the facts. I'm telling you the facts. Now, David.
Yes.
Refugees, if you are a minority, religiously persecuted, you are automatically coming. That's the whole point of being a refugee or in an asylum, okay, status. But if you are a Muslim, a Christian, or anybody else, a Jewish person from any of those 7 countries, you have to be reviewed and banned. Is that correct?
Judge, I'm not up to the details completely on that, but let me say this, to Neil's point, that there are a number of legal scholars on the liberal side of the equation that don't agree with his assessment, and that in fact they don't think there's standing, that the state, Washington and Minnesota don't have standing to even have this case.
Well, there was a standing ruling.
They don't believe. They don't believe, legal experts also don't believe that there's a religious discrimination. They're not sure about the due process clause. But here's the most important point about all of this. Donald Trump has gone through the legal process of going through the courts to find out what they're going to do, while he's also this week looking at taking other action. Contrast that to when Franklin Roosevelt couldn't get his policies passed. He tried to pack the court and add more people to the Supreme Court so he could get his laws enacted and get his cronies on board.
Now I'm going back to Neil. Neil, now I'm going to let you talk.
Yes.
All right, Neil, here's the thing. If it were a religious ban, then no Muslim could enter the country from anywhere else. But you know what? I want to move on.
That's not true,
Let's talk about it. What?
Judge, you can have a religious ban that is only focused on those 7 countries, and it would still be an illegal religious test. We cannot have tests on religion.
It's based on where you're from and whether you are a danger, and it's temporary.
There is no
until
proof
we can
that there is
figure
danger.
Out
there is no proof that there's danger,
Judge. How do you know that? How do you know what is in classified documents that even Barack Obama's administration found were dangerous countries?
What
how
I know
can
is
you
that
say what
What I know is
knows?
that there has not been a single terrorist attack in this country committed
goodness.
by anyone who's come by a refugee.
That's
a fact, Judge. Judge, that's a fact. Deal with the facts.
Wait a minute. Okay, and you know what? When's the last time Japan attacked us? Should we, that's got nothing to do with what's going on today.
Are you proposing a ban on Japanese citizens? Are you proposing a ban on Japanese citizens?
What I'm telling you is it's based on the facts today, not what happened before. Okay, so let's talk about
there are no
what's
facts
going on
the danger of these refugees. These are some of the most vetted refugees we've ever had.
Wait a minute, refugees from Somalia. Do you know what just happened at a university in Ohio, where a Somalian refugee got behind the wheel of a car and drove into a bunch of people, and then took out a butcher knife and started stabbing people? Don't fight with me on these facts. Let's talk about immigration. Do you think that the Trump administration is wrong to start arresting people who are here illegally, Neil?
Do I think it's wrong to be arresting people that are illegally?
Deporting them.
If they are people that commit violent crimes, just like they were under Obama, they should be deported. But the idea of arresting a mother of two and deporting her simply because she was here illegally doesn't make any sense. And why we should be prioritizing that over folks that have committed violent crimes makes no sense.
David?
Judge, the overwhelming people that in this recent pickup of illegal immigrants, almost all of them have committed a crime, or one was wanted in Brazil for going after young children. So President Trump is well within his right, as he is with the immigration ban that we were talking about earlier.
The Muslim ban. Let's call it a Muslim ban. It's what it is.
It's knowing who's coming into our country, Neil. Should we know who's coming into our country, or shouldn't we know who's coming into our country?
Right.
And on that fact, we should.
Neil Soroka, thanks for being with us. Right. Street justice still on deck. Plus, how can the president keep you and me safe if the courts keep getting in the way? Ben Stein is on deck with some insight on that and what the president could be thinking when it comes to security measures to protect us. President Trump going at it with the courts over his immigration policy. Here with me to talk about it is longtime professor of law and economics at Pepperdine University in Malibu and former speechwriter for President Richard Nixon, Ben Stein. All right, good evening, Ben. Now,
how are you?
I am fine, thank you. Now, we had this executive order, and what do you think the president's going to do? You think he's going to draw up a new one, or should he go to the Supreme Court? What should he do as it relates to national security and that temporary ban?
I think he'll break it up into several different parts. He'll send each of them out as an executive order. In the meanwhile, he'll appeal the blanket decision by the court in Seattle, and he'll also ask for an en-banc Court of Appeals ruling. What the court did up there was clearly outrageous. There's never been a court that blocked an immigration order by the president since 1942. It's inconceivable what they did. It's a coup d'etat against the executive branch and against the Constitution.
Do you think that they were motivated by politics?
Of course. Of course. Judge, I went to Yale Law School. At Yale, we learned legal realism. Judges do not make decisions based on what's in the laws or what's in the precedent. They make it based on what will please their friends and neighbors, what will make them big shots at big wheels. In Seattle, do you think anyone's going to consider them big shots for being friends of Donald Trump? No F way. They are big shots if they put their thumb in Trump's eye, and that's what they did. They wanted to show off, and that's what they did.
But you know what? It's so disappointing, isn't it? I mean, I worked in government for 30 years. I know it's life, but I'm one of those believers. I want to believe in truth and justice, and I want to believe, especially in a federal judge who has a judgeship for life, that there is some honor and dignity and justice.
I'm sure there is plenty. I think Judge Bork had a hell of a lot of it. I think Justice Scalia had a hell of a lot of it.
Yeah.
But these guys in Seattle are political puppets of the left and the media power. The media is the supreme power in America right now, and they're trying to cut President Trump down to size, and they're using the judiciary as one of their pawns.
And what do you think of the fact that the media, the fourth estate now, there isn't, at least with the three branches of government, there's so-called checks and balances, but with the fourth estate, the media, there is no checks and balances.
There are no checks and balances. And you know what I love is when the media points out that somebody or other in the government has a mistress or a girlfriend, and all these guys in the media have mistresses or girlfriends, or the government points out that such and such is speculating on stocks, and all these guys in the media are speculating on stocks. I mean, the media is the unaccountable fourth branch of government.
And you know what's great? They don't have to say who their sources are either. That's what's so incredible.
That's right. And they can just make up sources. They can just make up sources and have them go down in the history books as great journalists. They can just make things up.
Do you think that the President Trump is going to change that paradigm somehow, some way?
No, I don't think he is. And I think he'll try, but I don't think he'll be able to succeed. The media is just incredibly, unbelievably powerful, although the new social media have undermined the media somewhat, and they are cutting down the mainstream media a little bit. The mainstream media is very powerful. Question is the new social media going to be able to somehow outwit the mainstream media? It's an open question, because social media helped elect Mr. Trump, but social media can be turned against him too.
Interesting. All right, let's talk about immigration now. They're now calling it a roundup in L.A., your part of the world. Mostly those people here illegally with felony convictions. And, by calling it that, and we're now starting to see these protesters, confrontations, when are the people on the left who are so angry? I mean, when are they going to, pipe down? Or is it never going to happen?
It's never going to happen. Look, I've been in protests. When I was in law school, we went to go protests all the time. It's a way to get out of class. It's a way to get out of any responsibility. It's a way to pick up girls. It's a way to get high. I mean, if people don't protest because they have any real principle, they have no idea what they're talking about. They just do it because everybody else is doing it. It's a big party in the streets. Hey, let's go to the party. You have your choice. You can get a job and be a responsible citizen, or you can do your homework and be a responsible student, or you can go join the party. What are they going to do?
I can't believe it, Ben Stein, but it's always a party having you on, Justice. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.